Human vision is specialized for what's in front of us, leaving a 180-degree wedge of total blindness anchored to your back. In an apartment, this blind spot becomes a moving corridor of unobserved space, where misplaced items fall entirely outside your visual control. The brain handles these environmental gaps through rationalization. It's easier to categorize a misplaced object as a memory failure or a lapse in attention than to acknowledge a physical intrusion into the space we aren't currently watching. Eventually, instinct overrides that logic. I was brushing my teeth on a Tuesday night, staring into the bathroom mirror, when I felt a heavy presence occupying the air just behind my neck, the visceral sensation of an invisible mass standing close enough to touch. That sudden urge to freeze and listen is a primitive survival instinct. It's a biological alarm system detecting a literal intrusion into the one part of your perimeter you cannot naturally defend. During the day, we can suppress that fear with logic, but sleep removes those filters, allowing the subconscious to interpret the spatial threats that the conscious mind ignores. This manifested as a specific type of nightmare. I was in my own room, pinned by sleep paralysis, forced to view the space behind me through the dark, reflective glass of a television screen. In that reflection, a tall figure stood perfectly still. It occupied only the unobservable negative space, staying precisely centered behind my perspective. When the figure leaned forward and whispered, the physical shock of the sound broke the paralysis. I woke up gasping, my heart racing, feeling the distinct warmth of breath fading against the skin of my neck. That sensation triggered a desperate need for spatial control. I spent the hour checking closets, sweeping under the bed, and looking behind every door. But manually checking a room is useless if the threat is tethered to you. If something stays positioned within your shifting blind spot, it simply moves as you move, remaining forever out of sight. To bypass my own biological limitations, I turned to a stationary observer. I set my phone to record a night vision feed of my bed while I slept, aiming to capture the space I couldn't see. The footage began with hours of mundane, static silence. It looked like the room was empty, seemingly confirming that I was alone in the apartment. At 3:17 a.m., the recording changed. My body reacted to something unseen, and I slowly turned my head, exposing the vulnerable space at the back of my neck to the camera. A shadow that belonged to no object in the room suddenly occupied that negative space. It had no source. It was simply there, standing right behind me. The most chilling part of the recording was the entity's patience. It stood over me for hours, perfectly motionless, watching me sleep without ever making a sound. I deleted the footage almost immediately. I tried to tell myself it was a glitch or a trick of the low light sensor, anything to avoid the reality of what I'd seen. But empirical evidence destroys the ability to live in denial. From that moment on, every minute of my life became a hyper-aware struggle to monitor the unseen air behind my shoulders. We surrender our spatial awareness every time we look at a screen. Scrolling through a phone shrinks your visual world down to a few inches, leaving the rest of the room to fall into shadow. I was sitting on my couch when my camera app opened on its own, switching to the front-facing lens. It forced me to look at my own reflection and the space directly behind me. In the digital reflection, a tall, blurred figure stood inches behind my shoulder. It was finally visible, caught in the focus of the lens. It revealed itself through the screen because it knew I couldn't turn around. If I moved my head to look, it would simply rotate with me, slipping back into the darkness of my biological blind spot. As I watched the screen, the figure slowly tilted its head, leaning in closer. It was an act of total dominance, a show of curiosity towards someone who was too paralyzed to move. This entity chooses when it wants to be seen. If you feel safe and alone right now, it is because the system is working. It is staying exactly where it has always been, standing perfectly still, directly behind you.